So I never say never, and I'm not going to say never now, but I just don't know why Alexander Rakic is fighting Magomed Ankalaev. I'm not a therapist. I can't look into people's minds, but I could probably guess because Rakic sustained a really bad injury when he faced Jan Blachowicz, and he wants to get back in there. And you know what? Credit to him. He did really well in the first round against Yuri Prochazka coming back. In fact, I was like, wow, out of all the people you're coming back to after an injury like that, Yuri Prochazka is the one guy you want to fight. Okay. He surprised me with his performance, even though he came up short. So I'm not completely counting him off against Magomed Ankalaev, but I still have Magomed Ankalaev as my favorite in this fight. And who knows? What we're going to see is probably a Ankalaev victory, but if Rakic pulls off, shocks the world, and shows us all something we can't see coming, I have a feeling that Rakic versus Alex Pereira is going to be the next light heavyweight title defense. I know that Alex Pereira is, talking a lot about why, the UFC won't set him versus Ankalaev up. And we all know that Ankalaev, with his style of wrestling, despite talking about wanting to kickbox with Alex Pereira, that's obviously right now the hot fight to make. But remember Khabib versus Tony Ferguson, and then Justin Gaethje swoops in and ends Tony's career, and then it was Khabib versus Gaethje? We might see that if Rakic pulls this off, where now it's going to be, Alex Pereira and his team changing his tune to we want to fight Alexander Rakic because he's a stand-up fighter. And Alex Pereira is, as we know, he did beat Jan Blachowicz, who's a pretty good grappler himself, don't get me wrong. But Magomed Ankalaev did really good in the grappling round against Jan Blachowicz. So seeing how Magomed was able to go 5 rounds and have a close fight with Blachowicz, where Blachowicz finished Rakic, I think it's very highly unlikely that Rakic pulls off a victory. But if he loses, I don't know what's next. But for either Ankalaev or Rakic, because when you are coming off 3 losses, one of them is a serious injury, the other was a finish, and then the other you probably get finished also. It might be a career make or break moment where he's taking a huge risk and he's got all the pressure in the world riding on him. If he wins, though, you have no doubt that the UFC is probably going to change the tune and push him into title contention versus Alex Pereira. And let me just give you a miracle story, right? A potential timeline that we could possibly go down with this fight if the upset happens and the underdog comes out victorious. Because I don't want to say Rakic is for sure just going to lose and it's going to be the end of his career. Even if he loses this fight, I still think he's probably going to fight someone like the winner of Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith or something like that, possibly. Or maybe even Ryan Spann. Who knows? But let's look back. If Rakic would somehow beat Ankalaev and then beat Pereira, that would be probably one of the best light heavyweight stories to ever hit. Now, right now, it's very easy to get on the anti-Alexander Rakic train, but even though I find it highly unlikely, part of me would still like to see that Cinderella story come out and shock the world and possibly have an Austrian autobiography pick that talks about the injury and talks about that, because we don't have too many MMA style, movies like they do boxing, like Cinderella Man, Ali, all those things. Maybe we might have those in 10 years, like a Khabib movie or something like that. But if Rakic were to pull that off, wow. But I think, honestly, I have to close by saying it's just such a gamble for Alexander, and I really can only wish him the best. But I got to admire his courage for taking this fight out of all of them. I don't want to count him out completely because, like I said, first round against Yuri was really good. But this is an underdog tale that I don't think is getting a lot of underdogginess thrown its way. But we'll see if this happens. We'll see if he could pull off an upset. Don't know if it's going to go down. Yeah. On to the next.